Hello everybody, Keith here again. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to have a look at the orchids in bloom at the end of the month as usual, and then in the next week or so I'm going to sort out the next group of development orchids and we'll start looking at those for the next 12 months. So I hope you'll enjoy coming on that journey with me. I enjoyed doing it last year. So let's see how we go. Right, let's make a start. We seem to be only 3 different types of orchid that are in flower at the moment. That's Dendrobiums, Paphiopedilums and Phalaenopsis. So we've got a table full over here, some big plants as well as some small ones. So let's make a start. We'll start with this old favourite. This is was being identified, was an LID, being identified as Fuller's Sunset Golden Sun. Been in flower for ages. I hope, because there's nothing left to come on this after this last one's just opening. Once that's gone, hopefully it'll go back into vegetative growth. It's beginning to put new roots out and branch roots off from existing roots. So that's obviously starting to move. The longer days are beginning to trigger something. So hopefully this is going to carry on. The roots in the pot look very, very nice, so that I think is in quite reasonable nick. Left to right, let's go. This is one of the big ones. Well, it's Dendrobium Spring Dream. It's the very, very common one that you see in a lot of supermarkets and what have you. I got this particular one from IKEA a good few years ago now, and it was tough enough to survive when I learned how to look after it. Flowers, I wouldn't say any time of year, but it's not restricted to the normal period for noble A types, which is around now. This has flowered several times. It seems to flower when it feels like it. The big flowering is now. A couple of the canes going over, and of course they won't flower again, but we've got a couple of nice canes from last year, and I can see a green eye at the base of this particular one, which will be another point of growth, so hopefully we shall get some more, and next year we'll have another good go. I may have to start taking some of these older canes off. There's one of them over this side not looking very good. They're not going brown yet, but I think some of them are ready for coming off. They've flowered right out, and say some of them are old. So that's Dendrobium nobile type Spring Dream. Make a bit of room on the table, I think. Paphiopedilum Mordii. This is the second of the 2 flowers to open. You look at that one, which is quite green. This one, by comparison, the cup, pouch, whatever, is beginning to go yellow. So this, which has been out for a few weeks now, is obviously starting to go over. I don't see any more spikes pushing on. We've got a good few new fans that are growing nicely. This one just does its own thing, doesn't seem to be very picky about what you do with it, just sits on our kitchen windowsill, and this will flower perhaps twice a year, but it's always flowered at least once for me. You only ever seem to get one flower on a stem, but nevertheless I like this one. As I say, it just sits there, does its own thing, just feed it, water it, repot it every now and then. This feels as if it's getting ready, the bark feels a bit soft, so when these have gone over I'll give it a refresh. Right, one that you haven't seen, well certainly not for a while, this is species nobile, but it's the albiflorum variety, which means it doesn't have the purple tinge on the petals and sepals, which are white. I quite like this one, but it is a very large plant, as noblies can get to be, and again this is going to have some of these canes taken off just to try and make it a bit less cumbersome. Interestingly, that already we've got 1, 2 and another new growth there, so that's 3. So this is obviously very comfortable with how it's being grown in here. It lives in here all year round, like pretty much all of my nobile types. In the summer it sits on the top of the white rack, where it gets lots of heat and a reasonable amount of daylight. It tends to be shaded in the summer to keep this a bit cooler. In the winter it goes over on another rack where it's a bit cooler, but it's closer to the window, so it gets even more light. So seems to work for me. In terms of care, I water my noblies pretty much like I water most of my orchids when they are dry, and once you start getting into the slow periods in the late autumn round to around now, they don't use a lot of water, so it's a case of stick my finger down in there, and until it's reasonably dry, if not completely dry, I don't give them anything else. So to an extent you could argue that's the dry season, but I'm just going by the plant's needs rather than doing anything deliberate. It seems to work. One thing that I was told by one of our Dendrobium gurus last year, which I've done this time, is as you come out of the growing season, you want to start giving it the kind of fertiliser to make it change or help it change into flower mode. So the last month or so, say the middle of October to the middle of November, or there or thereabouts, change to a flower feed rather than a growth feed. And that helps put some reserves in here for this, and then now it's in flower. I'll keep giving it flower feed, and again, once it starts to show growth, I'll give it just water if it's not doing anything. Once it starts to put new growths up, then it'll start getting grow again. Right, another Nobly type. This one is Lady Coleman. It's not the one you saw last time. This is a smaller plant. I bought two from the same guy at the East Midlands Orchid Society at the same time. For not a hell of a lot of money, because they're quite small, and it's grown quite well. Nicest cane there, a better one here. You can't see the other one, it's colossal, and it's just too much trouble to bring it out. The cane, the biggest cane on that one is getting on for twice this size. And I'm told that Lady Coleman can make a very, very tall plant indeed, so you've got to be very careful with it. But this one has got a number of canes with unflowered points on it. Hasn't flowered desperately well, this one, this year, but it was the first one of them to flower for me, actually. But anyway, Lady Coleman looks a lot like the species Nobly, but actual fact, if you look at the heritage of it, there's not a lot of Nobly in there, although it's Nobly type, of course. But I quite like this one. The petals and sepals stand up more. If you look at remember the albiflorum that we looked at just now, the petals and sepals tend to sort of almost cup the middle. The other type that's in flower at the minute are the Denfels. My two better plants are doing fine. This is Sarnook Polar Fire, just the one spike this year, but with a nice growth, and some good canes, good reserves on this one. So I'm hoping we're going to get a nice spurt and a good new growth next time. Quite undemanding plants, I find. This one lives upstairs on a bedroom. It faces northwest. Doesn't get a huge amount of light, and it's relatively cool, but it seems to do fine. So that one's Polar Fire. Now, by way of contrast, this one is Sarnook Thailand Black, and really there isn't any camera that I've got yet that really shows the deep coloration on that flower. It's a very, very dark wine red. Two spikes on this one, only two buds on that side, but I'm happy. Now this one, as I say, by comparison to the other one, has lived in a conservatory all year, and again it lives on the top of this white rack behind me. It gets lots of light, it gets lots of heat. Seems to have done quite well. So as I say, very easygoing plants, don't seem to need an awful lot of looking after, and I've had this one since 2018, so it's about 4 years in my care. We've got a nice big cane there, so that's nice. I like Denfels. One we haven't seen since pretty much this time last year, because its time seems to be now. This is Paphiopedilum hybrid, sometimes called the American hybrid or the bulldog. I don't understand why these plants get the hate from the aficionados. I wonder sometimes whether it's because it's very easy to grow, and I think sometimes it can be that if it's too easy to grow, it's not worth growing. But it's a big, bold, reasonably large flower. That's my paw behind it, so you can see it's quite big. This, apart from the size, and it is a big plant, there's actually two in it. It was one plant, and when I repotted it, it split. But you know, we've got one flower on each side. This side's got another flower bud coming. Now you can see that around that stick. Can't see anything on the other one. But really, it could not be easier to grow. Stick it on the windowsill, treat it like a Phalaenopsis, and if you can grow phals, you can grow one of these. If you've got the room, because it is a big plant. You're talking about a leaf that's, what, 40 centimetres long, well over a foot. So this is a big plant, so you need to have a little bit of room for it. But as I say, very easy to keep, just does its own thing, exactly the same as I said with Mordii. Water it, keep it on the damp side rather than letting it dry right out. Put it on a windowsill, in our case northwest facing kitchen windowsill, and it's always done me proud. Again, like that white dendrobium, this was the first one of this type that I bought, and it's tough enough that it survived while I learnt how to look after it properly. So yeah, strictly speaking, no idea, but I bought it as American hybrid, but quite what that means I don't know. I think there must be a lot of insignia in that looking at it, but anyway, that's the bulldog path. Another, well, not quite so old faithful, but one I bought 3 or 4 years ago now down in Salisbury when I went down for the Bournemouth Society's 60th anniversary show. Very big show. I actually bought it in Salisbury at Marks and Spencer's. I wanted it for the Tour de l'Astur it was in. I've told you this tale many times before. And this was a byproduct, but it's probably the most floriferous of my phals. It's grown very, very well for me. 2 spikes this time. This one's already branched. Not fantastic spikes on both sides. It would be nice if it did match, but there's something about this one. One thing interesting now, on this other side, you've got to see how it goes. This is one that fades slightly after it's open. So when it opens, which is just open, which is this one, you can see there's a bit of a green tinge to it. And it's the same on the back. See, it's quite green. Now if we come across, these are a very pale lemony yellow colour. And that's what it fades to quite quickly. And then it holds that until it starts dropping flowers. And these last, a reasonable amount of time. Lovely plant, no ID, but very, very pleased to have that one in my collection. another one that I like. This is the purple no idea I got from Tesco. I haven't long repotted it. The roots were in a heck of a mess underneath. So let's hope that I managed to get it going again. I decided I would leave the flowers on. They're not going to last, I don't think, too much longer anyway. So we'll see how it all goes. But you do get them. You tend to get this similar ones, but the tall one rather than the short one. But never mind. I was pleased to see this flower this year for the first time in a long time, and it looks like it'll come round. The leaves, they say, even though the roots weren't wonderful, the leaves look okay. So I'm reasonably happy that that one will survive. Last one with only one flower on. This is bought as Leodoro, but I don't think it is. Leodoro is supposed to be scented, quite strongly scented, some people say. This one isn't. Now, from what I've heard, there were two crosses. One way got Leodoro, but if you crossed that seed parent the other way around, so the seed parent became the pollen parent and so on, you got an almost identical flower with no scent, and I suspect that's what this one is. Typical of these large leafed phals that perhaps tend to flower more in the summer, the spikes don't drop after the last flower's gone, so I've got a number of old spikes that are just sitting there not doing a fat lot. Occasionally they'll push a bud out, but I tend to leave them there because unless they're actually going brown, dying back, they'll keep doing a bit of this and a bit of that from time to time. But it's quite happy. We've got lots of good roots down in the bottom, right through the bottom. This is ready for a repot and a refresh. It must be because of the way the roots are right out through the bottom of a pot. So that's Leodoro. That's the last one. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks folks, bye.